Hey everybody, this is ReapeeRon, and today we're going to be doing a little bit different thing. We're going to be doing a top 10. This is going to be my top 10 favorite disturbing movies. In order to make it to this list, they do have to qualify as a disturbing movie. That does not necessarily mean that they are a horror-based disturbing movie, so there's like one exception to this rule is why I'm putting it out there. These will be the top 10, and then there will be four honorable mentions that I put down. So if you don't see one of your favorite disturbing movies or something that I missed, feel free to leave it down below. Obviously, this is completely subjective. It's completely my opinion based, so you are welcome to disagree with my opinion. In fact, I would encourage it and to make your own top 10 favorite movie or disturbing movie list. So yeah, let's get to it. And these are only of the ones that I've seen and as of current. So if I see ones in the future, they might end up being on the list more. So don't take this as set in stone my top 10 disturbing movies. Anyway, at number 10 we have a Serbian film. Overall, I didn't completely care for a Serbian film. I'm really not planning on ever watching it again. I did see it once, and it did have a fairly strong impact on me. And I can see why people would say that it's one of the most disturbing movies they've ever seen, because it definitely is. That being said, the reason why I put it on here is just because of the impact it had on me, not necessarily because it's one of my favorites. Honestly, I debated whether putting this one as an honorable mention or not even putting it on the list at all. It came down to number 10 seeming like the only place it could really fit, or as an honorable mention. So, at number 10, Serbian film. At number 9, we have Irreversible, or however you're supposed to say it in French. Irreversible. This movie was pretty weird. The whole movie plays out completely backwards. Similar to Memento a little bit, but not exactly the same. Mostly the disturbing scenes happen right at the start because it's towards the end of the movie, which after that makes you not really want to watch the rest of the movie anyway, because there's really nothing disturbing going on. However, the rest of the movie is still a good movie. That's why I put it at number 9. Particularly the rape scene is extremely disturbing, especially for it being as long as it is, when it's like 8.5 minutes of just non-stop. That's not even over exaggerating. I think that might actually be under exaggerating. I'm not exactly sure how long the scene is, but it's pretty intense, as well as one of the scenes shortly after that's pretty intense as well. So that's why it's here at number 9. At number 8 is Inside. I already did a review on this, so feel free to go check that out at your leisure if you want. Overall, I really like this movie. When I was first told or first heard about that the French had really good horror movies, disturbing movies in particular, I was somewhat skeptical. Sorry, France, I don't mean disrespect, but you're French. Anyway, Inside is still a really, really good movie. It's probably, it's on my list, so it's definitely one of my favorites of the disturbing movies. This one was just cool. I liked it. It was pretty simple, it was pretty basic, but it still worked, and it was very graphic, which was awesome to see. So that's why it's here at number 8. At number 7, I have The Skin I Live In. Now, this one kind of falls in line with what I was saying earlier, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a horror movie to be disturbing, as The Skin I Live In isn't really that much of a horror movie. It's actually more of a thriller or somewhat of a mystery movie. But that being said, it still has some disturbing aspects to it. And I just found it to be surprisingly good. I hadn't seen Antonio Banderas in anything for quite a while, and at least of note. But he did a really good job in this, and it was just really kind of weird and cool to see. I could definitely see me watching this again, and I don't know why I don't own this. Anyway, that's why it's at number 7. At number 6, we have a classic. This one is Stanley Kubrick's, sorry, I can't even say his last name, A Clockwork Orange. This movie had a pretty good reputation, so I was expecting a lot out of it, and I definitely got a lot out of it. I really like it. The main character is really likable. What's his name? Michael McDonald. I'm gonna catch flack for saying his name wrong. Anyway, he did a really good job as Alex, and I just really like the story, as well as the cinematography is great, and you can definitely tell it's a Kubrick movie. And I mean that in a good way. It's well shot, well acted, well edited. Has a lot of really cool sound effects and just sound design in general in it. So I really, really liked it. Definitely one of my favorites. Coming in at number 5 is a little known movie. I really haven't seen anybody post or say anything about it, really. This one is called Confessions. This one is a Japanese movie. And this one is really, really weird. Well, not so much weird, but it is fairly intense, and it does a really good job. This kind of goes for the same way I said about The Skin I Live In. It's a very strange movie. It doesn't really fall into a horror movie, but there is a lot of disturbing elements in it. In fact, this movie has almost no on-screen violence at all. It has very little. What you would expect maybe from a PG-13 movie, honestly. But all just the parts that you don't see that are heavily implied really make this disturbing. And I really liked it because of that. That even though it wasn't graphic and gory, like, is another thing that I really like, but this one was just so, letting your mind play out what you think happened, that it was just so good. And that's why I put it at number 5. Okay, at number 4, we have I Saw the Devil. This one is by far one of my favorite horror movies. And I have rewatched this thing quite a lot. I do own it. And it is awesome. Pretty much, if you wanted to see a horror action movie, I would definitely recommend this. This is the epitome of horror action movies. It is just so cool. It's pretty much what happens if you put, say, a martial arts expert or a action hero from a movie and put them in a horror movie against somebody who isn't, some sort of weird superhuman or unkillable or something like that, and then just see how it would play out. And it's just really cool to watch that, because the main problem I had with this movie is that every horror movie I watched afterward that was supposed to be a serious horror movie, I was just like, what happens if you put the guy from I Saw the Devil in this? That's always what I thought. It would just be like, it would be so much cooler. Anyway, that's why it's here at number 4. At number 3, we have Ichi the Killer. This one I really like as well. This one is really cool, and really, really weird. This definitely means really weird. It is definitely one of the strangest movies I've seen. I have not watched the anime and read the manga as of now. I might in the future. The graphics some of the graphic parts are a little bit silly when they come out, since it is a little bit dated. But that being said, the story itself and a lot of the practical effects are really cool in this movie. And pretty much all of the horror-based scenes are very intense and fairly disturbing. I mean, one of the main characters is pretty much just a walking pincushion. So, yeah, that's why it's in at number 3. At number 2, we have another classic horror movie. This one is Cannibal Holocaust. I actually reviewed this one too. This one was actually a pretty fun movie to watch. It is a throwback to the 80s. It came out in 1980. I love the stories behind it, where the director got arrested thinking that he had killed his cast, which was not true at all. There is actual on-screen animal violence, though. All of the animal violence in the movie is real. And there are cut versions of this, so you don't have to watch that, which is also kind of cool. It cuts out like 4 or 5 minutes, something like that in it. So that's really cool to see, too, that they actually, made a version like that, because obviously it wasn't really good for them killing animals anyway. But anyway, it is very disturbing. very gory and very graphic. It is probably one of the most gory movies I've seen. Not potentially one of the bloodiest movies, because I think Brain Dead owns that one, but still one of the goriest movies I've seen, and it was pretty disturbing even watching it now. Okay, before we get to number one, I have a couple honorable mentions that I want to put in. So the first honorable mention will be Frontiers. This is another French movie. This one pretty much, imagine Texas Chainsaw Massacre on steroids. If you want to watch that, go right ahead. I found it really fun to watch. It's pretty much how I said it. If you want to see like an action horror movie with just extreme action and extreme horror, that one's a pretty good one to check out. So that's why it's here on an honorable mention. The next one is High Tension, which is another French movie, I believe, unless it's Spanish. I'm not entirely sure, because I didn't look it up before this. Sorry if I'm wrong on either one and it turns out it's Yugoslavian or something like that. Anyway, this one was pretty intense, very gory, and I did like it up till the ending, which I'm not going to spoil or anything. And that being said, even that might be considered a spoiler, that I didn't like the ending. But that's completely subjective anyway. It has a very subjective ending, whether you're going to like it or hate it or just be confused or somewhere around that specter. That's why it's an honorable mention. My third honorable mention goes to Men Behind the Sun. This one was very disturbing simply because it was based on true events and the horrors that went on in Unit 731, not 736 like I was trying to say. I don't know why I thought of that. But it was the horrors that went on in that establishment that was a government-sanctioned biological weapons test and contamination test and all sorts of other stuff. And the real stories are absolutely horrifying to just read about that place. And it definitely feels like weird stuff that would be going on in this movie. There is another movie called Philosophy of the Knife, but I would not recommend it at all. It is absolutely terrible compared to Men Behind the Sun. It's also a ton longer. That movie's like at least 4.5 hours long, maybe longer. I can't remember. It was by far the longest and most boring movie I've seen ever. This one's only like an hour and a half, if that. So if you're going to see something like that, check this one out over that one. And then the last honorable mention that we're going to put here is Hard Candy. This one I already reviewed as well, and this one, it kind of fits in with the Confessions and the Skin I Live In theme, where it's not necessarily a horror movie. It plays out much more like a thriller, but simply everything implied is fairly disturbing. And then I'm going to talk about a couple of movies that didn't make the list for one reason or the other. The August Underground movies, I know people are going to say, I just don't particularly like them. They're not really well done. That being said, I do like the director quite a lot. He seems like a really cool guy. So if you like it, cool. I just don't like it. There we go. Let's see. Angel's Melancholy will not be on the list either. Simply because, again, it's similar to the August Underground ones. I just didn't really care for it too much. As well as it's really hard to find a copy that's outside of German, as far as I know. I don't know. I had to watch the German with the English subtitles, and they were choppy at best. So, definitely not one on here. Those are the only ones I can think of right now. I'm sure people are going to put more in the comments that say something about another movie, and I may have just forgot about them. I may have actually watched them. I may not have, but anyway, on to my number one most disturbing movie pick. My favorite most disturbing movie is Martyrs, the classic one, not the remade English one or American one. It's not as good. This one I just really like. I could rewatch it quite a few times. It's not very long. It has a fairly interesting story. It has good characters, and it has some really cool scenes throughout. That being said, the ending might not be for everybody, and the somewhat slow pacing towards the middle again, might not be for everybody. But for me, I really like it, and that's why it's my number one pick. Again, if you had any sort of other movies that you liked, disliked, whatever, feel free to put them down in the comments below. I'll try to, read them and see, maybe I forgot something. Maybe I forgot to put on movies. Also, it depends on what your criteria as a disturbing movie is anyway. So it's really subjective. This whole thing is very subjective. Anyway, before I keep rambling, I'm going to end this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have been having a good day, keep on having a good day. If you guys have been having a bad day, I hope this video made your day just a little bit better. I hope to see all of you guys next time. Until then, stay cool and bye.